Caitlin Clark 0 for 4 from 3. So on the road this season, Caitlin Clark is a combined 1 for 32 from three-point range. Very unusual. She's hot. Breon January having to hold her back. We'll take
$32,000. That's what the WNBA took from Caitlin Clark. Not for a dirty foul, not for a suspension, for saying out loud what everyone watching already knew. And instead of going quiet, instead of issuing the standard non-apology that athletes put out when a league wants them to sit down, she looked straight into the camera and said nothing she needed to. Take back. That's where the story starts. Not with the fine, with what came before it and what it means for everything that comes after. Rewind 48 hours. Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces. Fourth quarter. Clark drives baseline, absorbs contact, and the ball goes in. No call. She turns to the referee, not screaming, not charging at him, just a look. The kind of look that only means one thing. She's been keeping score. Later in the same game, a screen that should have been an offensive foul gets swallowed. 2 plays later, a block that every analyst on the broadcast calls clean gets whistled as a charge against Clark. 3 calls. 1 game. And when it was over, Clark didn't storm off. She walked to the podium, sat down, and said this: "The refereeing in this league needs to be better, because right now it isn't." 7 words that cost her $32,000. Here's what makes this different from every other player versus league story you've seen. Clark didn't say it in anger. She didn't say it mid-game while emotions were running hot. She said it composed, deliberate, measured. The way someone speaks when they've been thinking about something for a long time and finally decide the cost of silence is higher than the cost of speaking. That is a different kind of statement. Most players learn early that you can feel robbed and still keep that feeling inside the locker room. Clark made a different calculation, and the league responded by making her calculation cost her. Now, leagues fine players for criticizing officials all the time. It's a standard clause. It protects referees from becoming targets. The logic isn't completely broken. But here's the thing the WNBA didn't account for. Clark has spent 2 years becoming the most watched player in women's basketball history. Her games are breaking cable records. Her jersey is the top seller. When you find her, you don't quiet her. You make her a headline. You hand every person who already felt the officiating was uneven a confirmation. You turn one post-game comment into a national conversation, which is exactly what happened. Within 6 hours of the fine being announced, Clark's name was the top trending sports topic in the United States. Not because she did anything new, because the league responded in a way that validated everything she said. And that is the moment this story stops being about a basketball game. It becomes something else entirely. It becomes about power, accountability, and who gets to say what's true. Let's talk about the referee problem. Because it is real, it is documented, and pretending otherwise is the reason we're here in the first place. This isn't a new conversation inside the WNBA. Players have whispered it in locker rooms for years. Coaches have bitten their tongues at post-game podiums. Assistant coaches have pulled reporters aside after games and said things they'd never say on record. The culture of silence around officiating in the WNBA has been enforced not by respect, but by exactly the mechanism that just played out. The threat of a fine large enough to sting, handed down fast enough to send a message. Stay in line. Trust the process. Don't embarrass the league. Clark didn't get that memo. Or maybe she got it and decided it wasn't addressed to her. Here's what the data actually shows. In the 2025 WNBA season, Indiana Fever games ranked in the top 3 for foul differential against the home team on 12 separate occasions. Clark specifically drew fewer shooting fouls per drive than any player in the top 15 in drives per game, meaning she was getting to the rim at an elite rate and getting the whistle at a below average 1. These aren't numbers pulled from a fan account. These are tracked, published, publicly available statistics. And yet the official position of the league, until 48 hours ago, was that everything was fine. Officials were performing at the expected level. The process works. Then Clark said, it doesn't. And suddenly the process needed to protect itself. There's a pattern here that goes beyond basketball. When an institution has a problem it hasn't addressed and someone with enough visibility names that problem publicly, the institution's first move is almost never to examine itself. It's to silence the voice, fine the player, issue a statement about the league's commitment to officiating excellence, move on, hope the news cycle does the same. This works most of the time because most of the time the player is not Caitlin Clark. The game is not drawing 2 million viewers on a Tuesday night, and the moment doesn't have the cultural weight to sustain a 5-day conversation. This moment has all 3. and what's making league executives genuinely uncomfortable right now. What you won't hear said directly, but what is driving every closed-door conversation happening in WNBA offices this week is that Clark isn't the only player who feels this way. She's just the first one in years with enough platform and enough leverage to say it without fearing the consequences. Because $32,000 to Caitlin Clark in 2026, with her Nike deal, her Gatorade contract, her Prada partnership, is not the deterrent it would have been to a player earning the league minimum. The fine didn't silence her. It funded the next headline. And everyone in that league office knows it. What happens next is the part nobody is saying out loud yet. There is a version of Caitlin Clark who plays it safe, who takes the fine, posts a vague statement about respecting the league's process, and shows up to the next game with her head down and her mouth closed. That version exists. You've seen her in other athletes. The ones who got big enough to matter and then got careful enough to disappear. They protect the brand. They protect the relationship. They become very good at saying a lot of words that mean absolutely nothing. Clark chose a different version of herself. 47 minutes after the fine was announced, she posted. No long caption, no PR language, no carefully worded non-comments designed to satisfy everyone and commit to nothing. She posted the scoreline from the game, the 3 disputed calls, time-stamped, and a single sentence underneath. I said what I said, that was it, no hashtag, no tag to the league, no invitation for debate, just a quiet, absolute refusal to perform remorse she didn't feel. The post got 4 million impressions in under 3 hours. Now here's what separates Clark from every athlete who has tried this move before and lost. She didn't make it about herself. She never said the referees were targeting her specifically. She never claimed a conspiracy. She said the standard of officiating needs to be better. For the league, for the players, for the people paying to watch. That framing is everything. Because the moment this becomes about Caitlin Clark feeling personally wronged, it's a story about ego. But the moment it's about the integrity of the product, it's a story about accountability. And accountability is a much harder thing to find someone for believing in. Her teammates understood the distinction immediately. 3 Fever players posted in the hour after Clark's fine dropped, not to throw fuel on the fire, not to name call. Just quiet solidarity. A repost here, a single word there. Enough to signal that this wasn't one player going rogue. This was a locker room that had been thinking the same things and finally had someone willing to carry the weight of saying them. That changes the league's calculation entirely. When it's one player, you fine her and move on. When it's a locker room, you have a labor issue. When it's a locker room on the most watched team in the league, you have a public relations crisis dressed up as a disciplinary matter. And when that locker room is led by the player whose name sells out arenas in cities where the local team hasn't sold out in 4 years, you have something the league hasn't had to navigate before. Real leverage sitting on the wrong side of the argument. The WNBA built its biggest moment around Caitlin Clark. Marketed around her, scheduled around her, priced tickets around her. They just didn't plan for the part where she started talking back. So where does this actually go? Because that's the question nobody in sports media is answering cleanly right now. And it's the one that matters most. There are 3 paths forward and the WNBA has to choose one of them, whether they admit that choice is happening or not. The first path is the one institutions always prefer. Wait it out. Let the news cycle move. Quietly acknowledge internally that officiating standards need review, implement some minor changes in the offseason, and never once connect those changes publicly to what Clark said. This is the path of managed retreat. It protects the league's authority on paper while conceding the actual argument in practice. It's the political solution. It resolves nothing and postpones everything. The second path is escalation. Double down on the fine. Issue a stronger statement about the importance of respecting officials. Make an example. This path has a long and consistent track record of making leagues look afraid of the players they depend on. It didn't work when the NBA tried it with players who had less platform than Clark. It won't work here. Escalation against someone with 4 million impressions on a 2-sentence post is not discipline. It's advertising. The third path is the one that actually requires something. Acknowledge the conversation. Commission a genuine review of officiating consistency. Create a transparent process for players to raise concerns without financial penalty. Treat the athletes like partners in the product rather than variables to be managed. This path requires the league to admit that a 23-year-old from Pella, Iowa, just identified a structural problem that the entire organization had been professionally avoiding. That's a hard thing to do. Institutions are not built for that kind of honesty. But it is the only path that ends with the league looking stronger than when this started. Clark knows all of this. Don't mistake the simplicity of that two-sentence post for impulsiveness. This is a player who studied business at Iowa, who built a brand architecture before she played her first professional minute, who chose her sponsors with a precision that would make a seasoned agent nervous. She is not operating on emotion, she is operating on leverage, and she knows exactly how much she has. Because here is the truth that the league cannot say and cannot escape. The WNBA in 2026 is not the WNBA of 2019. The television deals are bigger, the sponsorship money is real, the arenas are fuller, and the single variable most responsible for that transformation is the player they just fined $32,000 for telling the truth. You do not find the engine of your growth and walk away clean. You do not silence the voice that made people start listening and expect the audience to stay quiet with her. Caitlin Clark said the refereeing in this league needs to be better. She was right. She is not backing down. And the most interesting season in WNBA history just got a storyline nobody scripted, but everybody's gonna watch.